In this video, we discuss the different ways of writing main function in C programming language. So there are two basic ways of writing main function in C programming language. One is using void as a return type for main function, and another one is using integer as a return type for main function. So what is the return type of a function? In C language, each and every function that we write contains a return type. So now, for example, we see there are three functions here. Sum function's return type is integer. That means at the end of the sum function, it must return an integer value. So let us say I am returning a 0 value here. In order to return a value, we use return keyword. So sum function return type integer is saying that at the end of the sum function must return an integer value. Now we see another example. Average function here, its return type is float. That means at the end of the average function, it must return a floating point value. So floating point value means a value which contains a decimal point. Okay, that is satisfied here. And we see third function, read underscore character function. Its return type is char. That means at the end of this function, it must return a character value. Okay, now I am returning the character value a here. But in some cases, if we don't want a function to return any value to its caller, then which return type we must use? The point here is, if we don't want a function to return any value to its caller, then what type of return type should be used here? In such cases, we must use void here. Void, let us say I am writing hello. I am using one function, I am writing one function hello. Its return type is void. That means the hello function need not return any value to its caller. There is no need to use return function here. So hello function should not return, or no need to return any value to its caller. So this is the return type. This is the purpose of using void function. If we don't want a function to return any value, then we must use a void return type. So based on these examples, we see how to write different ways of writing functions here. So first one, we use second syntax using integer main. Let us say we use first function, that is void as a return type. So void main function printf hello world. So just a basic program. So I am compiling the program. So it is asking that printf function should have a prototype. That means, as we said in the previous video, that printf function, so we need to include one header file, that is stdio header file. Again I am compiling the program, so no errors. I am running the program using Control F9. I am seeing the output using Alt F5 hello world. Okay, if we don't want to use Alt F5, we can use getch function here, and also I am using clr scr function. Okay. I am compiling the program. Okay, clr scr should have a prototype. Okay, I will include conio header file. Okay, then we don't get any problem. So we got the output hello world. So this is the first way. Here I am using void as the return type. As we have used void as a return type, this main function no need to return any value to its caller. Then who is the caller for the main function? So main function is called by the operating system. That means main is called by the operating system, and if in any case, if main wants to return any value, then it must return a value to the operating system. As we have used void as the return type, then there is no need to return any value. So this is the first way of writing main function in the C programming language. And we discuss the second way. The second way is, instead of using main, we can use int as the return type. Again we compile the program. Now we see here we got the warning function should return a value. So it must return a value here. So that means at the end of the main function it must return a value. So we return some value here. In order to return a value, as we said in the previous cases, we must use return keyword. So identify the differences here. All the predefined keywords are in white color. So these are the predefined keywords. Return is the keyword. Okay. So I am returning 0 here. To whom I am returning 0? So main function is, as we said in the previous case, main function is called by the operating system. So it must return value to the operating system. So I am returning 0 here. So we see the output hello world. So what is the meaning of 0 here? 0 indicates success. Okay. If we return any other value, that indicates error. So these are the values written by the main function. So 0 indicates successful execution of the program to the operating system, and 1 indicates or any other value indicates error. So these are the two different ways of writing main function. Similarly, in this function main function also, we can also specify void here. Void, as in the previous case. Suppose if you don't want to use integer, if you want to use void main, then also. So as we have used void, then there is no need to use return 0. Okay. So we get the same output. And similarly, suppose if I omit void here, what happens? Now see here, again we got the same error. Function should return a value. So why? Because if we specify void here, that means we are saying the compiler that main function no need to return any value. But if we omit void here, what it indicates? As we said in the previous case, each and every function in C language it must contain a return value. But if we don't specify any return value, then by default in C programming language, integer is the return type for each and every function. That means if we don't specify, in this case I have not written any return type. That means the default return type for this main function is integer. Even if you specify integer or if you omit integer, by default it becomes integer. That's why we got the error. So again we compile the program. So again we got the same error. Since we didn't specify any return type here, the default return type is integer. So we must return an integer value. Then we don't get any problem. So we can directly run the program here. So this is the main concept of this video. So we can write main function in two different ways, using void as the return type, and second one is integer as the return type.